Good evening and welcome to the May 18, 2015 Hillsborough Township Board of Education meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. In accordance with the State Sunshine Law of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting of the Hillsborough Township Board of Education was provided on May 14, 2015 to the Hillsborough Beacon and Courier News. May I have a roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood?
Surely. Ms. Boguszewski?
Here.
Ms. Santafonte?
Here.
Mr. Cohen?
Here.
Mr. Dutta? Mr. Gillette?
Here.
Mrs. Haas?
Here.
Mrs. Haley?
Here.
Ms. Wassant?
Here.
And Mr. Kintz?
Here.
We have a quorum.
If we can rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We've had correspondence as is listed in the agenda, and I'd like to hand it over to Dr. Schiff for the superintendent's report.
Thank you,
Dr.
Mr. Kinst. I appreciate that. Good evening, everyone. We have a nice crowd this evening, and that's because we're going to be recognizing a wonderful program that we have in the district called the Community Work Program. One of the most important things we do in our district is prepare our students for college as well as for the world of careers. And tonight we're going to be recognizing and celebrating some community partners that help us to do that for some very special kids in the community. So I'd like to begin this evening's events by introducing our Director of Special Services, who will introduce the others who are in the audience, Ms. Kathleen Warlick.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Employers have recognized for some time that it's smart business to have a diverse workforce, and one in which many views are represented and everyone's talents are valued. Vince Lombardi, coach of the Green Bay Packers, once said, individual commitment to a group effort, that is what makes a team work, a company work, a society work, and a civilization work. We are here tonight to acknowledge the commitment our local businesses show to our students. They allow and support our students in growing their job skills each day. The local businesses, in partnership with our teachers, to support our district in teaching our students the processes and skills they need to be successful in employment. We commemorate you all for the hard work and passion you show every day in working with our community work program. Each one of you becomes vitally important to our team, and our team can change lives together. Now we have two students, Hannah and Stephen, who will come up and tell you how important you are to them.
My name is Hannah Manoia, and I am a 20-year postgrad. I enjoy the high school community work program. Last year, I worked at Somerset Medical Center, Foothills Nursery Home. This year, I have been working at Applebee's, Goddard Preschool, and Mary Mother of God. I'm learning new ways to improve my skills while at work. I love working with my job coaches because they help me so much. Thank you for this opportunity.
My name is Stephen Graham, and I am 21-year-old postgrad. Thank you for the opportunity to work in the high school community work program. I have worked at Rubberwood Johnson Medical Center for the past 2 years. I work in distribution, laundry, the volunteer office, and the cafeteria. I have learned many good job skills to help me in the future. This is my last year in the high school postgrad program. I enjoy working and look forward to having a new job next year.
Mary Dubboy will introduce some of our local businesses that we have here tonight.
Thank you for having us tonight. And I have to say, Hannah, Stephen, you're a hard act to follow. Okay, I'd like to recognize the businesses that support the community work program that are present tonight. Please stand when I say your name. Mary Mother of God is Karen Duffy. Bernadette Borbley. Christine Powell. Walgreens is Claudia Rodriguez. Lynn Urban. ShopRite is Lynette Byrne. Four Seasons Daycare is Mary Horowitz. Belle Gwadowski. Weiss Market is James Dolman. And Angela's Pizzeria is Angelo Vitale. And the following other businesses could not be present tonight, but they are Home Goods, Applebee's, Gymboree, Cornerstone Dental, YMCA, Foothills Nursing Home, GameStop, Long Elegant Legs, Goddard School, Flower Barn, Robert Wood Johnson Medical Center, Emeritus of Hillsborough, Staples, Bellmead Physical Therapy, Verizon Xerox headquartered in Baskin Ridge, Victor's Pizza, Five Below, Animal Pet Supply, St. Joe's Parish, Retro Fitness, Hillsborough Food Bank, Hillsborough Elementary School Nurse, and the Roman Gourmet. And I'd also like to thank the job coaches and ask them to stand.
I'd also like to express our appreciation from the board for all of our community partners, all of the businesses that help to make the transition between high school and work so much smoother and better. Thank you so much for the work that you do. I'd like to ask the board just for a brief recess so that we can thank you in person.
Absolutely. We'll take a 5-minute recess. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a few quick announcements to share with the board and the community. First of all, it's my pleasure to congratulate two Woods Road School first grade students, Juliana Brulette and third grader Samira Gupta. These two students will have their artwork displayed in the main hallway of the New Jersey Performing Arts Center for the entire summer. Their art teacher, Mrs. Samantha Banker, entered their artwork into the Dick Blick nationwide contest. Julia received one of only 5 gold awards out of the contest, and Samira won one of only 10 silver award winners. So congratulations to both Julia and Samira. I also announced at last week's board meeting that our softball team and baseball team went into the county championships, and they both did wonderfully well. The boys' baseball team defended their title and was successful against Watchung Hills, and for the second straight year in the row, got the Somerset County tournament for baseball. Congratulations, Raiders. Our high school girls softball team also capped off a wonderful season last night by making it to the finals of the Somerset County tournament. The team played a great game, however, lost to Watchung Hills by a score of 2-0. However, congratulations to the Lady Raiders. They did a great job and had a wonderful season. It's also my pleasure to announce that Amsterdam Elementary School teacher of mathematics, Didi Leone, worked with EIA Education to develop a fraction manipulative entitled Fact Track, which was recently released to the education market. This product helps teachers enhance their understanding of the relationship between and among whole numbers, fractions, and decimals. Congratulations, Mrs. Leone. That's all I have for this evening.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Schiff. Now we're moving on to approval of minutes. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the April 27th, 2015 executive session minutes. So moved. Okay. Any discussion? Actually, I have one. If we can amend it, the last sentence, last half of the last sentence, to change that to read to affirm the HIB ruling. This was with regard to that. So that would be my recommendation to change that wording.
Do as amended then.
Okay. So this will be to approve the minutes as amended. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain, sorry.
Okay, got
And
two.
Haley, got you. And Steve, right?
Yep.
Got you, thank you.
Okay, motion passes. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the April 27th, 2015 regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Motion passes. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the May 11th, 2015 regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
I have a second. Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I'm abstaining.
Okay, motion passes.
Motion passes. Okay, now we have committee reports. Start with operations.
Yep, thank you. Oh, thank you, Mr. Kins. Operations met on May 13th. We had a number of important issues. I'll talk about some of them. First, I want to start by talking about flex time for custodial maintenance staff. Some board members may recall, or if you were a more recent board member, you may not recall, as part of the 2011 contract with the unit that includes maintenance and custodian staff, we included the ability to schedule employees on flex time. Now, for our district, flex time means that you may have a schedule that would be Tuesday through Saturday or Wednesday through Sunday. How we have been doing it before that, and even sometime since then, is having regular Monday through Friday work weeks, and then with the necessity of having the buildings open on Saturdays and Sundays on more than just occasionally, but most of the time, employees would be assigned or elect to work on those Saturdays and Sundays, which would be automatically an overtime day. Now, starting in 2011 with that 2011 contract, we have the ability to have the schedules as I explained from Tuesday through Saturday or Wednesday through Sunday or some configuration of that type. We never implemented that at that time. We've been through, I think we're like that was 3 HR directors ago, that was like 6 buildings and grounds supervisors ago. Things got caught up. And also there's some reluctance on the part of employees that think they're coming into a job that works Monday through Friday with the ability to pick up overtime to be very eager to be the first to volunteer, what have you. It was our hope on Operations Committee at that time, way back when, that as new employees would be hired, they would be assigned to the different flex type schedule. That didn't really happen either for maybe for the reasons I explained about turnover in HR, turnover at Buildings and Grounds. But now we had an update from Ms. Pat Mahoney, who is the current supervisor of Buildings and Grounds, and she's begun implementing flex time schedule. It's already was implemented with maintenance and will begin with custodians, I think, soon, or maybe already has begun since our meeting. Or maybe next week. Next week. Actually, I see you next week. So we're very happy about that. It's been a long time. I don't have the estimate in front of me, but it will save, our overtime costs in this area were growing each year, and this will help curb some of that growth in the overtime costs. There will still be overtime, I'm sure. So I just want to get that out of the way before I segue into another very important concept, the school lunches. Now I can say unequivocally that Hillsborough has the lowest priced school lunches in the state. The reason I can say that without even thinking about it is because we're out of compliance. Our lunches are too low as far as the federal government is concerned. Federal government, for any school participating in the free and reduced lunch program, they use a formula to determine the minimum school lunch price. A school lunch price, and this is for the upper grade. I think this is for the upper grades. We're talking about 5th through 12th grade. This affects 5th through 12th grade. So we had a presentation by Kathy DiGregorio, formerly Kathy Major, who runs the Sodexo Food Services in Hillsborough. And the upshot of it is that we're going to recommend, not at this meeting, but at a future meeting, to increase the school lunch prices by 25 cents. This is for the full, what they call the reimbursable lunch. So this is like your full lunch, not a la carte menu or anything like that, just the full lunch, which would be the lunch given on free and reduced. for those students that need that. So the Operations Committee recommended unanimously that we get into compliance. That makes sense. So we did that. The next thing Mr. Mahmood gave us, no, you weren't there. Matt was there. Gave us a report on the budget variance. We like to see where we are with our accounts at this point in the year. Everything looks good. We're not going broke. Everything looks fine. Yes, Ms. Haas, everything looks good, but we'll have a better idea. The last few years with things being so tight, we really will have a much better idea, of course, after June 30th, which is when it all comes to an end. So we took a look on that too. We also had some, we talked about board member ethics. We talked for a little bit about that. We also had an updates on the air conditioning that we're installing as part of the ESIP program, and the air conditioning is in many parts of our district. Well, it was being installed at the high school and at Aris, and in some rooms at the high school and some at Aris, it's already functional. No,
At the high school.
At the high school.
at the high school. At the high school, in some it's already functioning. In Aris, it's
Not yet.
not done, but going, and it's soon, right? Yeah.
Well, we
Hope
hope
so.
it can be completed
We hope so.
by, our plan was to complete by the fall of next year. We are now air conditioning about 20 or 30 more classrooms at the high school than we had in previous years. The others are split units where there's an air conditioning condenser on the roof versus a standalone univent. So the univentilator that also has cooling in the 100, 200 wings of the high school are operational at this point. The split units were on the second floor of Aris, as well as a few of the other classrooms at the high school, about 20 other rooms, will hopefully be completed about towards the end of this year. I don't know if we're going to be able to continue to turn them on initially before the end of this school year. If we can, we will, but we'll see how things go.
Thank you, Dr. Schiff. Real quick, we had an update on the roofing solution for HES. As you know, we had approval through the ROD grant process over a year ago to be able to do roofing replacement at HES. We did some other roofs around the district. We also had approval for HES, but even only having to pay 60% of the cost still means we have to pay 60% of the cost. And the cost for a complete, we didn't have that money's available. We didn't have the 60%. So we're looking for other solutions. This is still a work in progress. We have some, Mr. Mamu just told me just before we walked in that we had some other, we put some bids out. We had some answers back, and we're going to be discussing that at the next Operations Committee meeting. But we might have some solutions that will be affordable without a complete roof. So that would be very good if that comes to fruition. And also, we talked about the two highest priority items that may be partially paid for with the monies in the capital reserve account, which would be, I guess, the top one is the middle school parking lot, and sort of the co-top one, maybe a notch below. But equally important is the turf, artificial turf field at the high school. We had some discussion at the last board meeting about how much funds are in the capital reserve account. If we could, and how much we might be able to put in as deposit at the end of this year. I think the way we figured it out at the Operations Committee meeting was that if we could make a deposit of about $250,000 at the close of this school year into our capital reserve account, that would leave us the 60% required to complete both of those projects through one of the two schemes. I say that in the best possible way, which would be through referendum or through another ROD grant method. So even to have 60% available, we need to make a deposit at the end of this year. Also, we have even more hard choices to make. So, and we also discussed some other possibilities for funding for the turf field. And Mrs. Haley had mentioned that Bridgewater used some creative ways to get some funds through the county or some other ways to do their latest turf field project, and we're going to explore other ways also to do that. I know that was long, but it was a great meeting. I was glad to be there. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Gillette. Education Committee?
Can
Mrs.
I
Haas.
ask a question on
Yeah, well,
Absolutely.
it's fresh. Go ahead.
yes. I understand we have to raise the price of lunch. Will that change the composition of the lunch for the better? Or
It doesn't, it's not going to change composition lunch for the better, right? No. Do you want to talk about where the extra, so the extra 25 cents? Right. I'll start off. So we asked about 25 cents. Oh, is this a windfall for who's going to get? So Kathy has informed us that, first of all, when you raise the price of lunch, the amount of lunches sold will drop. It always drops whenever we raise by some. Maybe it picks back up later, but it will drop. But we will get some more income from raising the lunch. Those funds can only, any funds that you use in your food operations business can only be used again for that business. It goes into a special fund that's only for food service, yes. And we use it for things like buying equipment
Enterprise fund.
It's called an enterprise account, and we can use it for buying equipment and doing other things only related to food service. But I'm trying to avoid your question because it's not going to make. I don't think there's any anticipated a menu change or anything related to that.
and even something like offering baby carrots instead of cooked carrots, that would be minimal in cost, and I think you'd actually get more people buying lunch if they had things like that.
The one thing that, if I could, Tom, the one thing that we had a pretty extensive discussion into a lot of areas because she's only comes to operations maybe like twice a year, so we hit her with with a lot of stuff. While she was there to talk about this, we also asked about other things, and she talked about Matt, you remember? She talked about the price of the ground beef was almost doubling, right, from what it was previously. So it was. I think they're going to be hard pressed.
Commodity prices overall have gone up in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So I think that if and that doesn't even go into the 25 cents, doesn't even play into that, but.
Right, and the price increase with coming into at the bottom level, we've experienced this. We've gone through this before, where you're at a certain amount and you can only raise it a certain amount to get to the minimums. So, we've been compliant in terms of keeping our prices at what the levels were, but the floor for the free and reduced or for the lunches for schools that participate in the federal program, they continue to increase over time. And so we're just keeping up with that.
Well, it has to be, what it has to be is, they say you need to be at this level. You're here. We're not going to make you jump all the way at once, but you have to increase at least like 10 cents or something.
Yes, minimum.
But since we didn't make an increase in the current year, we have to at least increase 20, right? Plus another nickel.
We actually, if I may, and I apologize, Mr. Gillette, for doing it at the dais, the Operations Committee will be recalled, I think, to convene again because there may be some options. There was a little bit of miscommunication, and I apologize for that. There was, and I apologize. However, we did increase the prices, and so that changes the game a little bit, and we wanted to reconvene the committee to talk about that. The sooner the better. However, tonight, nobody's voting on anything.
Oh, yeah, this isn't
so this is more informational. Unfortunately, there was a miscommunication, but we did raise the prices in the past, so we may not have to go to that extent. However, we felt we should take it offline and talk to the committee again.
Okay, well, I'm open for that.
Yes,
we're still
Mr.
under.
Cohen.
We're still
Not
under.
to take any of the thunder away, but was any of the miscommunication about the amount of monies? Yeah, okay. We'll talk about it in the operation committee. Sure. I had a feeling there was some overestimating. Thank you.
No problem.
I wasn't going to challenge it at the meeting because I didn't want to continue the meeting.
Okay. Dr. Sasan.
Can I just
But it was
ask,
a little high.
Can I just ask that if this discussion in the Operations Committee reconvenes with Kathy, we did have a discussion, or at least I raised it at the Education Committee, about the lack of true vegetarian options. I mean, a lot of people can order vegetarian food and skip the meat, but that's not really giving them a well-rounded meal. And so I had asked that we raise that, and I'm told that there's even a new option at the high school where there's prepared foods in a machine or something that look really good, except there's no vegetarian option. So if we could follow up with her.
I'm open to that. Yeah, obviously, that's not.
Thank
that's
you.
a good-
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, especially teenager, high schoolers, they're exploring their options, and I think we should do the best that we can to provide them with a well-rounded
Write
meal
that
if
down,
they're not
Mr. Rudy.
eating meat.
Got it. That's up there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sasan. Any other
If you
clarification
think meat
questions?
prices went up, wait until you see what's gonna happen to everything else.
Yeah.
35 million chickens done, the egg market, a third of the egg market is gone. It's gonna take over 16 to 18 months to recover. So anything that has eggs in it, mayonnaise, baked goods,
So beans.
Looking forward to that. Glad we raise our own.
well, being that eggs are like the best
Education
protein,
Committee, Mrs. Haas.
the best protein for your body, it's
Education
gonna be very
Committee met
difficult
on
to
May
get over.
12th, and we had several good discussions. Our first discussion was thrown over to us from Human Resources in regard to whether or not we should reconstitute the tech coach position in exchange for certain projectors in the high school. And we're actually a split committee on that. Several people felt that the projector savings should have been a budget item, and several people felt that the budget was set, and within the technology department they should be able to reallocate money as they see fit. So that was basically the result of that discussion. We also had a discussion on placement decisions, mostly relating to the science department, and we explored some ways that parents could be notified that their children's math choices as far back as elementary school will determine how many science classes and AP classes in the sciences they will be able to take when they get into high school. It's currently very difficult to move from CP to honors at the high school unless you have a very high grade in your classes. But the most important thing is to make sure that you have the math that supports, for example, chemistry and physics, in order to be able to take those classes and be successful in them. Our whole goal is always to have the children be successful. So, these are the requirements that are necessary for them to be successful in those classes. So the administration will be recommending to principals that they provide information about placement to be part of all parent and student handbooks, as well as shared at back-to-school nights. We discussed summer reading literacy, and we have no less than 11 books, 10 of which were for the middle grades, 7 and 8, of which they can choose. They don't have to read all of them, but some very, very interesting choices, something for everybody, some good varieties. And our common read in the high school, I'm very pleased to say, is the book called I Am Malala, How One Girl Stood Up for Education and Changed the World. And it's the story of Malala Yousafzai, who just happens to be a Nobel Prize winner. And I find her extremely inspirational, and I think the kids in the high school will as well. So that's what we did as far as summer reading is concerned. We also had a very lengthy discussion as a result of some discussion at the board in terms of the awarding of varsity letters. And our high school principal, Karen Bingert, and athletic director, Mike Finizzi, came to join us for this discussion. And basically, Mr. Finizzi indicated that our past practice has been that the district only sponsors programs that are recognized by NJSIAA, the Skyland Conference, or Somerset County. And the NJSIAA does not sponsor equestrian teams. He also contacted the National Federation of High Schools and discovered that there were only 4 states in the country that recognize equestrian sports. California, which has 40 schools that participate, Maine, Michigan, and Ohio, which have 1 school apiece that recognize equestrian sports. And besides its precedent-setting status, if we were to go this way and sponsor a sport that is not sponsored by the NJSIAA, there are other activities at the school, such as rugby, karate, ultimate frisbee, that are clubs but are not recognized, recognized activities for the school. And Ms. Bingert also shared that there are many students who participate in highly competitive activities outside of school, and that would include taekwondo. I mean, we have kids that reach a very high level there, dancing, ice skating. And if it's not a high school sport, we can celebrate them and we can applaud their achievement, but varsity letters are really reserved for school-sponsored sports. And that has always been the standard at the school, and that would be their recommendation going forward. So those two discussions took place. In relation to National History Day, this is actually a very cool story. We had some teachers who went a couple of years ago to a gifted certificate program, and they brought back this National History Day project, and basically this provides kids from grade 6 through 8 an opportunity to spend a year doing academic research on historical topics. And they complete a research-based project that are just then entered into competitions. And this is not currently a school-sponsored club at Orton Road or HMS, but Mrs. Assini, who is our social studies and reach supervisor, shared that these two teachers did it on their own last year and got 23 students who did research projects over the summer and competed in March. 11 of those students went on to statewide competitions, and one 6th grader was selected to go to the national competition, which is so awesome when you consider that they're competing with 7th and 8th graders, and one of our 6th graders got to go to the national competition. So it shows that there's a lot of excitement about this program, and the teachers are willing to continue to work with them. And Mrs. Assini was proposing that it becomes a school-sponsored club, and she was estimating approximately $6,000 would be the cost of making it a school-sponsored club. And she also made clear that the students do not have to be in reach to participate. So we continue to discuss how club stipends are determined and to try to figure out a way to include the middle school students, because if our 6th grade students are doing so well, there's no stopping our middle school teachers and students. So we're very happy to discover that this was so successful. So they are going to propose, make a formal proposal to the board in regard to that, but I hope people will support it. And that was basically it.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Haas.
Any questions?
Any questions? Okay. Thanks, everyone, for the committee reports. Now I'd like to open the microphone, the dais, or the podium to members from the public, and this could be with regard to new business or items that are on the action agenda. So if you can state your name and address, please.
Thomas Zobelli, 9 Upper Neshannock Court. I wasn't expecting to speak, but there's always something very interesting in your the action agenda to discuss. So I wanted some clarification concerning the reduced and free school lunch program and the increased cost. I was sitting here and listening, and I was a little bit confused. So if someone could explain it to me very quickly, of course. I want to move this along.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so
Okay,
first
Mr. Gillette will provide some clarification.
I'll just be brief. First, this will not be an action item for tonight. As Mr. Mahmood indicated a few minutes ago, we're going to revisit the entire issue, but just to be very clear about it, for any school participating in the federal free and reduced school lunch program, there is a minimum price that they must charge for a not free or reduced lunch for the people that are just for the kids that are paying full fare. There's a minimum. We are somewhat under the minimum. Now, I indicated when I gave my report that we were about 25 cents under. We're going to revisit that. We might not be a full 25 cents under, correct, if I understand you correctly, but we need to come up to the minimum. If we were $1 under for some reason, the federal government would not make you go raise it $1 all at once. They'd say, well, you have to do 10 cents this year, 10 cents next year, and that's what we've been doing now for about 5 years. We've been always below and raise it up and still below, and that's probably what it's going to still be now, because by the time we get around to voting on this, it will probably have changed again. It will still be below. But just know that we have very low-priced school lunch.
So we have to do this in order to maintain our federal funding for this program. Is that
yes, and there is, in my mind anyway, there is no question that Hillsborough must participate in this program. We have a great number of students, and I don't have the exact number, but it's a significant number of students that take advantage of free and reduced lunch, and we do need to participate. We're not a district that has just a handful of students that might decide to opt out and provide something to the students in another way. There is no other way for this.
And just quickly, how often does this occur that the prices need to be increased? I know, as what in discussion it was said that because of commodities such as meat and everything in our society, prices go up. So, but how often does this have to occur?
Well, let me just clarify. The mandate to have a minimum price for school lunch has no bearing at all on food prices or commodities. It's just a calculation based on how much money the school district is reimbursed by the federal government for the free and reduced school lunch program. They take that number that you get back for each free lunch, let's say, and do a calculation with it, and then figure out how much you need to charge for a full price lunch from that. So the two are unrelated.
And again, I'm sorry, this is another interesting question related to the same topic.
I'll be the judge.
If the amount of individual students who purchase lunch, it's going to drop. I think it's pretty clear if prices go up. How does that affect, what bearing does that have on the overall issue concerning school lunch program as a whole and being able to buy new items and things of that nature?
I think we sell like 200,000 school lunches here. Does that sound? I don't know. Something like that? I think that's what she said. I think about 200,000 school lunches. If it dropped by 10,000 or something, I don't think it would not be significant.
Okay.
We sell many thousands.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. It's Henry Goodhue, 16 Laurel Drive, as well as Hillsborough Education Association. I had a question for the board regarding how they determine the allocations of stipends for clubs. I appreciate that we're considering new clubs, and I welcome new clubs, but I would like to make the board aware of the fact that we have 55 clubs currently at the high school outside of those listed in the contract for which those advisors receive no stipend. So I would just like to understand how we can determine which ones we allocate funds for in stipends versus those that do not.
Yeah, sure. We can talk about the proposal that will be presented to the Education Committee for its review. You're right. There is an overwhelming number of clubs that currently do not have a stipend, and the board has the choice of whether or not to offer a stipend or whether or not to, especially if it's not in the contract, in order to do that. Some of it may be interest, the amount of work that is required after school in order to supervise the club. It could be a matter of supply and demand as well that they would consider. So there isn't a clear procedure that the board has currently, or a policy where they would say this is a club that's stipended and this is a voluntary club at this point. So, and the board, and I do want to make this clear, the board has not even been presented with a formal proposal yet for that club. That still needs to be developed and generated.
Sure, absolutely. I'm just trying to understand, excuse me, in a general sense, how that determination is made, and if consideration is given to clubs that are already in existence but do not have stipends prior to instituting one that does.
Well, I think you're exactly right, that it'll put pressure on the board to say, if we're going to do it here, why don't we do it there?
Exactly.
And that level of consistency, I think, is going to be a factor that the board's going to need to consider before moving forward.
So those will be taken into consideration along with this formal proposal.
Well, I think they have to be, fully aware that if we choose to begin stipending some and not stipending others, that there will be pressure to stipend those others.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
that topic actually came up in conversation at the Education Committee. Is how do you establish equity either for those that are stipend and also those that aren't?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And was there any sort of determination, or was that in a preliminary sense?
No, at this point it was an acknowledgement that there are those that are stipend and those that aren't, and any new one, how is it in equity? Do you try to keep it under a certain amount, and how do you facilitate an overall budget and still stay within those constraints as well?
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, couldn't that also work the other way, where we don't stipend them anything? Just, if we can't stipend them all, if this can be an issue, why don't we just not stipend any of them then?
Yeah, that's for a discussion in
Well,
committee.
I would think that would have to be considered also,
Yep.
especially under consideration of the budget constraints that we're going to be on.
Yes.
We do have clubs that are within the contract that the board has already negotiated. There are a large set of clubs that aren't in the contract currently. So in terms of the board's authority, can unilaterally set those conditions outside of the collective bargaining arrangement, but cannot retroactively make changes for things that have already been negotiated.
I didn't hear anybody say anything about not stipending, so I just wanted to put that on the table as well.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen.
James Sheldon, 18 Wesley Road. Just a quick comment on the equestrian issue. I don't think the issue is whether or not they get varsity letters. I think the bigger concern is whether or not it's a recognized sport in general. Right now, if it's not recognized, for example, for my daughter to get to the next level in her sport, she rides competitively, will require travel to shows in Louisville, North Carolina, Syracuse, other places, and some of the shows start midweek, which would require her to miss school. Now, if that was being done for a high school sanctioned sport, then those absences wouldn't be considered unauthorized absences. And furthermore, she would not be excluded from certain school activities if she misses a day at school. So the issue is not so much the varsity letter, the issue is recognition of the equestrian sport in general.
And the response from our administration was that there are multiple other sports that also have outside competitions, such as taekwondo, such as dance, such as ice skating. I have 2 grandchildren who do synchronized ice skating. They would be away 3/4 of the school year if their parents allowed them to do that. But everything becomes a choice. And when you sign your kids up for outside activities, you're making a choice about how that's going to affect their schoolwork. And our district has to take the position that school comes first.
I understand that, but why should football be considered something acceptable versus equestrian, which is not? They're both, as a matter of fact, equestrian is an Olympic sport, football is not.
Because that's
so is Taekwondo, for that matter.
All of the above. There has to be a place where it stops.
Understood, but right now we're asking for consideration otherwise.
Okay. Thank you for your.
Good evening. My name is Jim Bexa, 2405 Jamestown Common. I'm here with my friends Elaine Nascimento, Douglas Boylan, Michael Guarnieri, and basically our question is, our little background, we each have children in the 6th grade this year, and they're going on to the middle school, and there is no busing. We have called the transportation, and we were told that because there are clear paths, clear sidewalks, and that we live in, I believe, a 1 mile radius, we are not afforded busing. However, it's really about 1.5 miles. Actually, you're closer, and it's almost 1.5 miles to his house, so it's a little longer to where the rest of us live. And it's actually shorter from our house to the high school, and yet there's busing to the high school. So when they're 16, 17, they'll have busing, but now that they're 13, they won't. And it's a really long walk. I personally, we don't want our children to be walking that far. My daughter has a violin, a heavy backpack. They have their computers. I'm a school teacher myself, so I see what these kids are carrying, and it's a long way. And as far as the clear sidewalks, those sidewalks are very icy, and as you know, we have winters like we have had the last couple of years. It's not as safe as you would think. And so I guess the question is, and I'll let everyone else speak, is what we need to do so that we can get a process going so that there can be busing, or where we can send our kids to the closest bus stop, because it just doesn't, for us, it just doesn't seem to be a reasonable situation for a lot of the students. And we don't know the exact numbers, but at least for ours and some others in our neighborhood. And I will let everyone else speak. And did I forget?
So we've actually written to the Department of Transportation to Mary Decker. She, in the beginning of April, said that would get back to us. We've not heard. So we understand that the board may use their discretion for busing that does not qualify. I would also ask that you do look at the hazardous routes that are part of the bus regulations. So Triangle is one of those roads. And again, traveling, you will cross between Triangle and South Triangle. So within our request, we do ask for your discretion for the safety of our kids who would have to walk, and please take the hazardous route into consideration.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I basically have the same things to say that they do. Just that my child, he's considering giving up playing the bell kit because of that. Because I don't know if you've ever seen the size of a bell kit. It's pretty big. So to lug that, his backpack, his Chromebook, 1.5 miles he's reconsidering playing an instrument. So, and I want to throw in a plug. My kid, he did do the National History Day, and I think it's a great program. He did the first round in Princeton, and then went on to the next round in William Patterson. Mm-hmm. So that's a good thing.
Excellent. Thank you.
Can I mention one more thing?
Yeah.
I live in the Williamsburg Common, Williamsburg Square. Oh, I'm on the board there, and I don't even know. It's Williamsburg Square development. And right outside, Doug and I, right outside of where our house is, there's a little bit of a grass area, and then there's some trees, and there are houses probably maybe 10 feet further than that wall, and they are bused. They have busing, and we don't. It just seems kind of funny. So maybe if there's some sort of rationale for the busing as to what that boundary line is, because I know those students, if they don't want to take the bus or miss the bus, they actually walk through where we live on their way. So if anybody does know the rationale for where that boundary line is drawn, it would be interesting to know, and if possible, could our kids go on their bus?
Well, I know that we can. I know that Mr. Mahmood can address the first part of your question.
It's Fleming Drive, by the way. Where? Yes.
Well, thank you for sharing your concerns with the board. A couple things I want to mention, and thank you also for writing to the board. And I do apologize for Marcy Decker not responding. I will talk about it a little bit tonight, and I'm willing to listen if you want to call me directly or email me as well. A couple of facts. The first question you asked, I think you were talking about Fleming Drive, Newell Street, and Runyon Street. Correct. Is that the other side? Basically, the answer to your question is the connection between the two developments for that particular bus route is not maintained by the township. So I guess they call it a bike path, but we cannot let the kids walk on this bike path that connects to the Williamburg Square. So these students would have to walk up or down Alton Road or New Amwell or Triangle Road to get to the middle school. I believe that the students, that your students, are on the other side of the road. So the Meadowbrook Drive, basically the transportation to the middle school, it's walking, but it's within a close proximity of the school. It has sidewalks that are maintained by the town and the board. And I also believe that there's a crossing guard there. If I may finish, sure, please. And also, she feels, Mrs. Decker feels, that there is safety in having the students walk that path. The last thing that I want to say is you brought to the board's attention in inclement weather. You know, I can understand where certainly if there's ice and things like that, we have in the past, during that type of situation, had buses meet children and bus them in exceptional weather. So the desire of the board is certainly not put children at risk when it comes to inclement weather.
You're referring to Meadowbrook Drive. Meadowbrook Drive is actually across the way. It's actually across Amwell. And I believe you're correct. There is a crossing guard that will cross them from New Amwell
it's on the
to
side of the school.
Okay. Okay. Well, with regard to the busing and the hazardous route policies, I'll refer that to operations to review and take this information into account as well. Okay. Thanks. Yes, sir.
So thank you. So then how would we then follow up with then that going to operations?
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll have a committee meeting and we'll actually put it up on the board. We'll take a look at it. We've done this in the past with questionable type of things. A parent will come to us and say, oh, this is not good, this particular route. And we'll take a very close look at it. Mrs. Decker will be there. Ms. Mahmood, I will be there. Board members will be there. And we'll absolutely explore it. And then based upon the letter that we receive, we'll respond to it with the outcome of our decision making at that point. And it'll be reported out publicly as well.
Okay, and so if we came to the next meeting, that would be by the next meeting, or just keep
You don't have to
following
wait.
up?
I mean, we'll contact you once the
Okay.
decision is made. But our next operations committee isn't for another few weeks.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's going to be the next meeting, which would be the second Monday in June. It may be the second meeting in June, because typically the committees meet mid-month, so I'm not sure exactly which board meeting that would precede. But within the next month.
We can get, Ms. Decker will begin her research and investigation into this matter
absolutely.
Right away,
Yeah.
not waiting for the next committee meeting to begin her research and develop some findings.
Yes.
Can I make one more request? Is that they maybe look at the percentage of students that are bused versus the percentage that are not. So, for example, if it's 97% of the students are bused and 3% are not, then okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, Mrs. Haas. What's that?
May I say something about
Please do.
transportation? The transportation policy, which I've just looked up, was set in 2003, which is actually before I was on the board. And I recall, though, very much that the entire discussion of this policy was the result of a community committee in which the administration and community representatives and the police department was involved. And the police department determined what the hazardous routes were, because there are some routes in town where we have no sidewalks, and that whole thing was evaluated by the police. And frankly, it's 12 years ago, and maybe the police need to take another look as part of our review of hazardous routes.
And also just the makeup of the town is different now than it was 12 years ago in terms of how many developments and traffic there is and things like that too. Mr. Gillette?
As I recall, Mrs. Haas, and I also wasn't on the board then, feels like I've been there since 2003, but not quite. But the driving force in 2003 was that some community members felt that we were providing too much busing.
Oh,
yeah. So it was sort of the opposite, and too much busing, and the police department, police chief got involved, and they took a look at it, and they actually determined that we had to provide, there was much busing that we must provide, that the greater public thought we were spending too much money providing busing, where legally from state regulations didn't need to be provided, but they said no, we were classifying certain roads, roadsides, even with sidewalk, as hazardous routes. And that was the key word back then, 12 years ago, hazardous routes. So we had to provide more than a lot of the public wanted us to at that time. So it was kind of the opposite.
Okay. Welcome back.
Well, thank you. I mean, I can do this all day. I'm a teacher, so I get shaky if I'm not talking enough. I just don't want it to be, do you think that it's just about being a hazardous route? It is a hazardous route. I mean, I think it's also a time thing. I mean, I'm an avid runner, and if I walk out of my house, jog to the middle school and back, that's a pretty darn good run for me.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a heavy backpack, a violin, the computer case, a water bottle that's 3 pounds. This is you're talking a long walk just to get to school. Our kids do well in school. We want our kids focused on school. It shouldn't be a half an hour, 35-minute slog, just to get there, and then.
Yeah. No, the policy review would include distance as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. All right. Continuing on, we have the action agenda. Dr. Schiff.
Thank you, Mr. Kintz. I ask for the board's consideration of the following motions under the area of education: to approve travel and related expenses, overnight trips, teachers participating in the Workshop Model Institute, approval for a nurse to attend the overnight trip, for the nursing supervisor also to attend an overnight trip, to approve health and physical education supervisor for summer work, approve additional summer work as listed, approve the novels as reported out of the Education Committee meeting, approve the HIB investigation list, approve the REACH advisor, and that's all I have in that area.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve items A1 through A10 of the action agenda.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
Who's that?
Jen can second.
I guess it was Jen. Sound challenge. Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, the only question, and it doesn't necessarily matter, for the peer mentor group, does the supervisor have to go? Is that, she doesn't tend to go on overnight
She's
trips.
gone
so
already. It's done.
Oh, this
it's retroactive. Right, I know, but I was just curious. I mean, it's not something they tend to go. I mean, it might be a different program.
The nurse is there for obviously medical reasons. However, none of our school nurses were able or desired to go, nor any substitutes. That's why she was there.
Okay. And then just real quick on item 810, the senior internship interviewing, what does that entail?
So we have a REACH senior internship program that we run every year. It's been here many years. And so the person who used to do it, retired. And so we need somebody to interview the students to determine where they're going to fit within the community for their internships.
Okay. And would that be something that the supervisor for social studies in REACH?
A supervisor also does do it. We have a lot of students.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions, discussion? Okay. Roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood.
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Wasson?
Yes.
And Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Continuing on with the action agenda. Dr. Schiff.
Thank you. I ask for the board's consideration of the following motions that I'm making, including the retirements of Fran Olkowski, who's one of our math teachers at the high school, has worked with us since September of 2001, and Joan Sheridan, teacher of social studies, also at the high school, who has worked with us since 2006. So we thank both of them for their service to our students and our community. Approve also the resignation as listed, the revised leaves of absence, the revised long-term substitutes, and to approve the leaves of absences as listed and the appointments of a co-curricular advisor, substitute, extra period coverages, and the approval of the HEA office personnel for the 2015-2016 school year, as well as clerical assistants, lunch aides, and custodial and maintenance staff.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve items B1 through B10.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I remember when I saw the items B7 through B9 in previous years. Those are members of those organizations. They're not employees for those. So just saying that again. So. All right, roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood.
Shortly, Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Wasson?
Yes.
And Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, continuing on, Dr. Schiff.
Thank you, Mr. Kins. I ask for the board's consideration of the following motions under the area of operations to approve line item transfers, the monthly bills list.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve items C1 through C2.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood.
Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Wasson?
Yes.
And Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Okay, I'd like to open the podium back up for any last public comment. Okay, seeing none. Any old business, new business from board members? Mr. Gillette.
I just have one. I don't know if it's old or new, but barred or blue or whatever over here. So after the last meeting, I had a brief discussion with Dr. Schiff, maybe one or two other board members, one or two, about public comment, the public comment portion of our meeting. And we had, as we did tonight, sometimes we have very appropriate board member commentary or discussion during the public portion, and it worked very well. As a board member, I much prefer the public ask clarifying questions and receive responses, not just from administration, but also from board members. It helps me also to understand what the public's exact interest is and help me to understand how I'm going to think about certain situations. But we also have some situations where there's a lot of interaction with public and with board, and it gets a little bit goes a little bit further. So one of the suggestions I had is that I realize on most public bodies that I've seen will actually formalize the public portion by making a motion to open the public portion of the meeting. All in favor, aye, and then close the public portion of the meeting each time, so that we know we're in public now and closed public. There may also be a time, and I'm not imagining this board, we all get along pretty well, but there might be a time when maybe the board president wants to stop the public, and the rest of the board wants, no, we want the public to continue. Well, who wins in that situation if you gavel down, Tom, and say, that's it, we're done with public, and the rest, or vice versa. The public has had enough, but maybe the board says, no, keep them coming. We want more public. So I know we have some regulations about the time, amount of time for public speaking at our meetings, and the amount of time for each person, the total amount of time, but maybe we ought to look at just, it wouldn't take more than 10 seconds to open public and close public.
Okay.
It's something for governance committee.
Yep.
Think
I'll refer it to there, because we have had that discussion, because there are times when the topics kind of get either long, and there actually are rules for public participation. I share the same philosophy. I'd rather have more input, more dialogue. I think is a better situation. So, so for example, it's not supposed to exceed 60 minutes. You're only supposed to have 2 minutes per person. If somebody speaks on the same thing, I have the ability to say thank you. We've already brought that up. But adding the formal moving into
it
public
might remind
comment
board members
section.
that we're in public now. Let the public have their say, and we can talk.
I'll direct that to
Somebody
governance
voted
committee.
no. I mean, the reason why I wouldn't think you can vote on public comment is because it's not really something you could vote on.
No,
Public comment is required at all open public meetings.
But so that we know formally, we're opening our public comment portion of the meeting now.
But if you're voting on something, people should have the right to say yes, no, or abstain.
Sure.
But you really don't have the choice. So, I mean, I had, after our meeting last week, I had given Jordan some verbiage that I use at my ESC meetings, which doesn't, vote on opening or closing, but you're basically laying out the ground rules where, you say something to the effect of, this is the public comment, You can do it now, you can do it at the end of the meeting. Now is for stuff on the agenda, later is for anything and everything. And, keep your comments brief. And if there's something that needs to be clarified, it will be clarified. Otherwise, we'll look into something. And then the final thing that's said, which is really important, is that personnel matters cannot be discussed from the dais.
Well, we know that. But I've imagined a situation where public has returned to the podium at odd time of the meeting, and the president says, we're done with public. And some other brothers say, no, let him speak. Let her speak. Come on up. Well, are we still in public? Are we not in public? Can public not speak now? Have we really had the opening and closing of public comment? I don't know. Anyway, something to think about. We'll discuss it another time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gillette. Let's see. On Wednesday last week, I had the privilege of chaperoning. It was middle school, but there were participants both from the high school and the middle school. It was the Teen Arts Festival that was held at the Raritan Valley Community College, in which all the different types of arts, so performance art, music, singing, vocal, visual arts, and then they also had workshops. So it was an opportunity for our students not only to perform and show off, they were moderated by experts in the field that provided coaching. So it was a very remarkable program, great participation. Everyone who participated should feel proud about how they performed. A lot of bravery I saw getting up and it's one thing to talk to a large group, it's another thing to talk to 2-3 people that are looking at you and critiquing you. But my understanding is that this program has been going on for at least 12 years, and it's a great program that's, again, hosted and facilitated by the Raritan Valley Community College, and we have great participation. Riding on the bus, normally you hear kids singing. It's a completely different experience when they actually are part of a choir and all singing the same song. So kudos to the students and to the staff who helped put that through, again, both at the middle school and the high school level. For clarification, for helping families, Friday, I believe, is in-service day. So there is no school, but there is in-service day. And with that, I want to wish everybody a safe and happy Memorial Day and Memorial Day weekend. Sir.
Dr. Schiff, any reports about prom weekend?
Kids had a lot of fun. It was great. Yeah.
No, nothing negative. Everything's good.
Everything is good.
Ho-ha.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. All right. Any other comments? All right. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We're adjourned. Thank you.